Cut the dang music. Cut it. Nobody needs that shit. What's up, everybody? Surprise. Surprise. Hope you're great. It's Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. here in Pittsburgh. Figured, look, I've been just client work and host of other things going on in my life. Couldn't really do content today, so figured I'd just jump on a stream, say what's up. A little less cumbersome than editing long form content. A couple things to talk about. Look, I get the question often, like, okay, like I really don't want to be injecting frequently, and I don't want my protocol to be like fucking convoluted. And like, what is the easiest, way to just for the rest of my life to just do TRT? And I think there's two answers to that. The first is you can dial in on infrequent injections of long esters, like ANAVAR or cypionate, in which case once a week would be the easiest. Yeah, I wish I could do that. Once a week, you just fucking pin your whatever into the glute. You pin your HCG then, or maybe the second day, and then you go 7 days and do nothing. And then just repin all over again. The second and better option, usually to dial in libido and erections, is to just use cream. Yeah. If you want something stable for the rest of your life, which will be around for the rest of your life, it would just be test cream. Cypionate, that's not going anywhere. Anything, it's not going anywhere. But if you think about it, in the 60s, you know what we had? Propionate. That's what we had. We had test prop in the 60s. And, we didn't have cypionate or anything until right around that time. So prior to that, that's all we knew. So, in 30 more years, there's Jatenzo, which is like fucking oral undecanoate, TRT now, which I've had to date, I think 2 clients that have went on that, and it wasn't a great experience. I mean, their levels go up and then they drop just completely. It's the fastest acting stuff ever. And it's out of your system really quickly. But, by the time 20 years goes by, we're going to have more options, I think. But for now, for life, test cream. That's not going anywhere. It's such a popular test modality and only getting more popular, and more clinics offer it. I mean, if you were to go to clinic 10 years ago and ask for testosterone cream, they'd be like, cream? You mean gel? They wouldn't give you cream. Now it's fucking everywhere, and it's awesome. All right, so I got an email about Primo and libido problems, and I don't want to read you the whole email because it's pretty long, but the crux of it, like the gist of the email was on TRT, couldn't quite dial in, libido was fine, erections weren't great, brought in Primo, loved the anabolism, killed my libido. And the answer to that dilemma is actually really simple. Primobolan blocks aromatase enzymes. It's not Primo itself. It's an intermediary metabolite that is an actual aromatase inhibitor at the tissue level. So, I mean, if you block aromatase at the brain long enough, or with enough strength, you're going to lose your libido. That's just kind of the bottom line. Even folks that like go on aromatase inhibitors, like you just like with lower doses, 0.125 anastrozole, 6.25 aromasin. Sometimes if they're sensitive to AIs in this regard, they kill their libido with that shit. So Primobolan can do the same thing. Masteron can do the same thing, man. DHT itself can if it's like loads of it. It just crushes estrogen at the gene signaling level. And then your body acts like you have low estrogen, right? Super low E2, like vastly disturbed E2 is going to kill your libido. It's going to kill your libido. So that's what happens with Primobolan. This is not entirely uncommon. It is innocuous insofar as really doesn't mess with lipids all that much. Pretty safe compound to take. Generally, if you don't have libido problems, you have no side effects. You really don't even know that you're on it, except for you're more anabolic and your body looks fucking sculpted quickly on Primobolan. But if it's blocking estrogen too much, you're going to have both libido problems and dick problems, which brings me to ANAVAR. I truly think after years of doing this, and I went on 1 cycle of test. I've run a couple anabolics, and androgenic compounds like Proviron. I've run a little Primo, a little Masteron, but I've run ANAVAR. I think it's honestly one of the best, if not the best, like the best anabolic. I mean, I got guys that I've got to have to go down to lower doses of test in order to keep estrogen in control, and they lose a degree of anabolism. So they go on ANAVAR, fixes the problem. You got guys that are perfectly dialed in and fine and just want some extra anabolism. Go on ANAVAR, get the anabolism like hell, and they're fucking happy. 8-week cycle, low dose, 10 milligrams a day. Cycle off of it, get your lipids back in order. They might skew a little during that time. Achieve keepable gains, right? More mass on top of where you were. ANAVAR is honestly the best. If at higher doses, 25 plus a day, it didn't cause me to have side effects, like tachycardia, among other things, I would fucking run 8-week cycles. I'd cycle off for 8 weeks. I'd cycle back on for 8 weeks, and I'd cycle off for 8 weeks. But unfortunately, it fucking causes me to have side effects if I dose it too high, which is a giant pain in the ass. But quite honestly, ANAVAR is incredible. It's incredible. Wanted to remind you guys, coaching is 50% off still. I do have limited slots, but I have slots open because, again, folks that booked in August when we started this have now completed sessions, the 1 month, the 3 months, etc. It's honestly been a hit. It brought a lot of people on board, and it's been fun to work with the PFS folks and the folks on TRT that are having erection and libido issues and get it resolved. It's pretty much what I do all day besides content. That's pretty much what I do every day. So code is coach discount. It is in the description. It is on the screen, and you can book me in under a minute. We're on the fact finding call as soon as the next day, and then we start. We don't wait. We don't fuck around. We just start. Cummingsdale, most informative YouTube channel on hormone optimization. Thank you, bro. That means a lot. I hope so. Or at least a channel that approaches this stuff with a different approach. I don't like to seem uncanny, but I like to tell the truth, and I'm pretty passionate about that. All right, we got a question from Davine. When checking serum T while using cream, should I not use the cream the morning before the test? If I skip the cream that morning, won't my T be really low? Yeah, the answer is yes, it will be very low. Yeah, you should do both, is what I would say. Test cream, peaks in terms of total testosterone, 2 to 6 hours after application. DHT peaks a little bit of a lag after that, 6 to maybe 8 hours. You got a peak in DHT, and then they stay physiologic or super physiologic for the remainder of the day, and then they start coming down probably when you're sleeping. But if you want to understand where these numbers go, then do two things. Test it at trough, which would be the next morning before you apply the cream, so you can see where you're troughing both on total testosterone, DHT if you care, and estradiol sensitive. This is useful data to have. Especially if you're on short-acting stuff, you can get the data within weeks, dude, and be looking at it, and know how to adjust in small little increments to get you where you need to be. And then also try, if you can, depending on when Quest and LabCorp near you closes, at the end of the day, try to get around the peak. Which if you're applying at 9 in the morning, 3 hours is noon, and then 3 p.m. is like around the peak. So between 3 and 6 p.m. is right around where you're peaking. Then you have all kind of information about what's going on. It's a good thing to know where you are in all of these instances. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do if I were you. After a degree of time with a lot of experience with your own body, you don't have to be, coaching people. You can get to the point where you really, the labs are useful to look at, especially when you've figured out, how to dial in on your particular dose or whatever protocol you're at. Then okay, snapshot. You snapshot the bloods right away. Libido and erections are amazing. You just go to Quest, go to discounted labs, buy labs, go to Quest, go to LabCorp, get your labs, and just fucking be done with it. But sometimes, if you're experienced enough, you really don't need to frequently get labs. I don't get them all that much anymore, unless I'm doing something that I haven't done before. And there's not a whole lot I haven't done regarding prop, cream, cypionate, enanthate, in terms of dosing and frequency. So I kind of know where the labs generally are, and I don't need to get them as frequently as I used to. But in this case, if you're still dialing in, definitely get them. Lewis, how anabolic when using cream versus propionate? Oh, this is a good question. Using prop at the moment, but not enough conversion to DHT, even on prop. How do you know? Because my bloods and client bloods tell me differently. Tell me that prop is pretty heavy on conversion to DHT. Yeah, not as much as cream, but it's pretty heavy on conversion to DHT. So that might be something for you to go and actually prove. I don't know why you're saying that. Is it an erection issue or something? Is the problem you think is not enough DHT conversion estrogen? Is that the problem? Hold on 1 second. 1 stupid second. Is that the problem? You've got to figure that out, man. You got to go run the bloods. Regarding anabolism, cream is much more potent for anabolism. Yeah, it is a longer half-life. It's really a longer effect duration window. You stay in the physiologic or super physiologic range longer with cream versus prop. Prop leaves the system faster, and all the numbers will drop faster. Not by a whole lot, but it's different. Cream starts hitting you right away, but it goes like this, and then it's kind of going like that, and then you're like that, and then you're like that, and then you kind of drop off at the end there. Prop is like this, is more like this. Bing, bing. If you plot that out on steroid plotter with testosterone propionate, you're going to see the difference. Prop goes like this. The lines literally are fucking vertical. So especially if you're doing like every other day injections, that's just how they work. So as a result, though, you get more anabolism with cream versus prop. I've always noticed on testosterone propionate, this is one of the downsides of it, of using it for TRT. For me, the dose that requires no AI or anything is 25 milligrams a day. And it's just not very anabolic for me at that point. It's more of kind of a drier compound. Still aromatizes, just not as much. And again, you get breaks from the aromatization, but it just seems to be less anabolic, probably from less nitrogen retention, potentially among some other things. So cream, though, even on lower end doses, the doses that will keep estrogen in range, you're pretty anabolic. You're good, strong in the fucking gym. And you're good to go. So go on the cream, dude. If anabolism is what you're looking for, make sure DHT is like, you got to go look at the bloods here and make sure that you're not wrong here and assuming that DHT is low. Joe, thank you for the super chat. Brother, appreciate that, man. Another Joe, a different Joe potentially? Maybe the same Joe? Been on 230 IU, HCG monotherapy. 230 IU a day. It's not quite HCG monotherapy, dude. That is low dose. Test is at 720. Okay, that's okay. E2 at 37, DHT 37. Yeah, the DHT is a little low there. Ordered the cream, 200 milligram per milliliter. What's your recommended starting dose? And HCG dose and frequency reduced. If I were you, I'd start with 2 pumps of the 200 milligram per milliliter stuff a day. And 125 IU a day of HCG. That's what I would do. You might need to bump that up, though. You might need to bump the HCG dose up as you go on. Because cream, I'm telling you, I mean, it's the best thing we have to not aromatize loads. So, you might find out, you might end up on cream with less estrogen. And the way to fix that usually isn't necessarily to increase the cream, because then you're just going to get loads of DHT and still even less estrogen and maybe some blocking of estrogen at the tissues, which you don't want to a great extent. It's just to increase the HCG. Cream is very fucking powerful. You can dose too much cream, so be very careful with that. That's why I always suggest 100 milligram per milliliter and not the 200 milligram stuff. Too much cream shuts the testicles down further and can fuck with sexual function if you don't have enough HCG. There's a point at which if it's too much cream and then you have to add HCG to balance it out, then it's over aromatizing because it's too much fucking HCG. So start at 2 pumps with that. Otherwise, if you can get your hands on 100 milligram per milliliter test cream, start with 4 pumps, go up to 5 pumps, potentially 6, but I would stop at 5. Have your HCG at 125 to 300 IU a day, and probably going to be dialed in or very close to dialed in at that point. Am I taking anything to address balding? No. Nope, don't have it at this point. Proviron will do it to me. ANAVAR didn't really touch it, although I didn't run it for a long time. Test in cycle doses, that did it to me. The 560 a week, and I had some hair loss. I could tell, like, just on the top of my head, I could tell like there was like spots and shit. But regarding like just TRT, I mean, I'm on test cream right now with a little bit of cypionate once every 5 days, 40 milligrams cypionate once every 5 days, and I'm fucking perfectly in my sweet spot. Perfectly in the sweet spot, and I do not have any shedding or any of that shit going on right now. Also have good hair genes, so I mean, that's me, but you could try taking high-dose tocotrienols. It's the only thing in the literature that shows us that it can help regrow hair. TB500, which is a regenerative repair peptide, in the literature suggests that it can help your hair regrow. I would not do anything that blocks 5-alpha reductase enzymes, anything that blocks DHT conversion. Don't do it. Don't do it one bit. Don't ever do it. Jeff, does test cream affect estrogen differently than test cypionate? 100%. 100%. Again, there's so many different elements of this dynamic that make the conversion to the metabolites a vastly different profile between these compounds. The first of them being that cypionate has a longer AUC, area under the curve of, what is a slow releasing from the depot androgen. Therefore, you get a longer duration of time within which you aromatize to estradiol. That's what happens on long esters. That's why they become problematic for people, depending on the dose. And some people just can't dial them in at all, or they have a very hard time. You got to find very, very small windows to dial in. Whereas test cream converts a lot more to DHT, and you end up having, depending on the concentration, 4 to 5x or 5 to 10x higher concentration of DHT yielded versus the same dose, milligram for milligram, of cypionate. So, it just it is provably clear that you make more DHT and less estrogen, therefore, on cream versus cypionate. Your test can only do two things. It can convert to DHT and convert to estradiol. If you have it disproportionately or more conversion to DHT, that is a better bet 100% of the time. 100% of the time. And that is what folks want to think about. Thoughts on 5-alpha reductase inhibitors on TRT? They're terrible. DHT causes acne if I increase my dose past 100, 175. Well, it's not just the DHT. It's not just the DHT. DHT has the ability to do that, certainly. So does estradiol. So does estrogen. So does test. So do fluctuations. Fluctuations are the single biggest driver of acne on TRT. Yeah. My thoughts on 5-alpha reductase inhibitors is that I want you to go to YouTube and search in the search box post-finasteride syndrome deniers. Just that phrase, post-finasteride syndrome deniers. It's a documentary that I did. It's about an hour and some change long, and I break down all the scientific literature on this and show how fucking destructive it is to people. Because the centerpiece of that, or at least at the beginning, getting the point across to hook folks, is the guy that jumped in front of a fucking train from suicidal ideation from taking finasteride. Those are my thoughts on 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, not the least of which is the fact that they can crush if you're susceptible. Apparently not everyone, has this, but it's way more than the literature suggests, in my opinion. Completely numb your libido. Completely numb your dick to the point where you can't feel anything. Give you full-blown, very hard to reverse ED. And also things like gender dysphoria. I had a guy come on board recently, a client, PFS, took 5-alpha reductase inhibitors, the prominent ones, has fucking gender dysphoria. You want that shit? You want to run the risk of that? If it's even a little bit of a risk, you're playing Russian roulette with your fucking life there, dude. You know how depressed you're going to be when your dick doesn't work? When you have no libido, you can't date, you can't be a man. When you start feminizing, your facial features start feminizing, your fucking jaw starts to look like it's shrinking. When you can't grow hair on certain parts of your body. When the male organ is lifeless and white and numb. When not even the craziest porn gets you turned on. When you have no drive as a male to get shit done, you know how fucking depressed you're going to be. And then you've got actual depression on top of that because DHT itself is an antidepressant in many ways. You're going to hate your life and you're going to fucking think it was the worst decision ever. I get people that come to me specifically after watching the most prominent YouTuber on, promoting the use of 5-AR inhibitors. And they go, yeah, I drank the Kool-Aid. I watched the guy's channel. I believed him. I believed all you people talking about PFS were full of shit. And then I got it. I realized I was wrong. And the folks that say, DHT is not necessarily that shit's wrong. You don't want to fuck with it. Deal with the fucking acne, man. Go get some salicylic acid, do some other shit. Stabilize your protocol. Don't fucking take 5-alpha-reductase inhibitors. I did warn you. Max, what do you think about 250 milligrams test E once a week without an AI? I think you're probably going to over-aromatize. Yeah, doing test prop every day, libido is still shit. Well, what's the dose, dude? Where's your number? Where are your numbers? Do you have HCG or not HCG? All this shit matters fucking way more than it looks like you think. If you're taking prop and it's a high enough dose to make you aromatize out of your zone or the zone of 20 to 35 picograms per milliliter, you're going to need to take an AI or DHT derivative. You can't dial those in. You got to dose lower on the prop to get it to where estrogen falls in range, and it's pretty much hovered around that range. Then your libido is going to be insane. My libido is fucking crazy on prop at the right dose, or with higher doses with aromacin. It's the only way I can dose higher dose prop and not have like dick and libido problems is with aromacin. Get estrogen in the right spot. 250 test E once a week, 100% is going to make you over aromatize, unless you have no HCG. And maybe if you're lucky and you're really, really efficient, you're lean, you don't drink a lot, and all that stuff, then you won't over aromatize. But I think that's a bad protocol, brother. I think you're going to be up the creek, and it's going to be hard to dial that in. That is sports TRT right there. That is the beginning of sports TRT, the low end of sports TRT. So tread carefully, my brother. Braden, I pin daily, so no fluctuations. If I had Primo, even at 60, libido. Hold on, I think I've lost the video again. Why? That should fix it. No fixie fix. Hold on, guys. Hang tight. There we go. Yeah, just cordage problems, brothers. Again, hold on. One sec, guys. Stupid cordage. Yeah, libido can get nuked when you're using Primo bond. Yeah, that's basically what I talked about at the beginning. Yeah, it can absolutely positively just fuck your shit up. It blocks estrogen. I mean, that's the reason it does that. It's not displacing. Potentially could be displacing DHT at the receptor. I don't know, and we don't really know. But predominantly, it just can nuke estrogen in a way which kills your libido because it's nuking it from the brain side of things. In other words, it's preventing aromatization of androgens into estradiol and brain tissue, which is going to kill your libido if it's too much. Yeah, and also can cause some acne. You got to find the right dose, man. A lot of folks to even tolerate 60 milligrams of Primabon need to be on 300 a test or more. It's kind of nuts. On cream, once a day or twice a day application, once a day in the morning. Yeah, the idea that you need to be at the absolute steadiest state possible is, although it is a good idea if you can make it work. Some people are going to do better when they trough a little, so that there's not constant aromatization. Remember this acronym AUC, the area under the curve. It's the duration within which you are being exposed to aromatization of test to estradiol. And if you can reduce that area under the curve, you have less estrogen exposure, and you can dial in better. It is actually better to peak in the morning like you would naturally in test and DHT and then start troughing later on at night. It is better in my experience, and that's many, many years of this. Once a day. Yeah, if I could look at, I haven't done this, so I can't say this definitively, but if I go look at all the documents, the client documents and protocols and stuff, and people that come to me, the folks that come to me on cream and are having a hard time dialing in, most of them is because they're doing, two applications a day. Yeah, I mean, the dose might be wrong as well, but they're doing 2 applications a day and they never get a break and they're over aromatizing or there's some sort of other problem like that. So, yep, that's the bottom line, brother. Once a day is best in my experience. Chance, what's up, brother? 120 milligrams test cypionate split into 2 shots per week. I've tried HCG 250. I use 2x a week, and clomiphene citrate 25 milligrams 2x a week, both with test. I am a corn star with clomiphene, but HCG not so much. Why? Interesting. At 120 tests split into 2 shots a week, so 60. I mean, it could be the case that you are just responding better to the blocking of estrogen receptors. It's just doing enough E2 control, if you will, and enough of the testicular, basically the luteinizing hormone and FSH signaling from the brain down to the testicles. And it's just kind of helping you out in that regard. I do not see this often. I see HCG working out 90+% of the time way better than enclomiphene, but I mean, sometimes this happens. I can't really explain why, other than that, just the blocking of estrogen receptors with a little bit of enclomiphene. That's not the daily dose. The daily dose is 25. You're doing it twice a week at 25. That's better. You just end up in the sweet spot. And I think that's good. Enclomiphene long-term probably cause some side effects that might be reversible, ocular stuff, potentially low chance of blood clotting. So just be careful there. Look into that literature. And that's what I would say. Megatron says, replace kratom with Blue Lotus. Any thoughts on that? I don't know what it is or what it does, but if it acts like kratom insofar as increasing prolactin, it's going to be bad. If it doesn't, and doesn't do anything else, it's fucked up. I really don't see a problem with it, but I don't know a whole lot about it. Austin Harris. What's up, brother? On 0.15 milligrams every other day injections for 2 years. Clinic doesn't really seem to care. And I've tried my own to fix feeling very unwell. Thoughts on DHA or pregnenolone stuff. Hey, brother, I don't know what you're talking about here, man. I don't know what you're talking about. What is 0.15 milligrams every other day injections? You mean 15 milligrams? And you've tried on your own fixing unwell? Be a little more specific, brother. DHEA, extremely useful. Pregnenolone, not so much. Not so much. Symptoms being hot flashes. Feeling like life is gray. Zero libido. Yeah, you got to get a little more clear on that, man. Not joshing around. Love this. Feel fatigued on TRT regardless of the dose. 80 each injection, 900 trough, 45 estradiol. Well, your dose is too high. That's why. Whenever there's side effects, you just got to lower the dose. That's just the bottom fucking line. It's just the bottom line. 45 estradiol at trough indicates you're peaking at 60, 65, maybe even more. Maybe higher than that. So that could cause your problem too. That could cause your problem. Although I don't have tiredness, fatigue on high estradiol. Some people do. I can tell you when I get tiredness and fatigue, and it's with pretty high hematocrit, which you could have here by this. So please look at that. And with ultra doses of test, like 500 or above, actually at this point, it would be like probably 600 or above. I got used to 560 and was fine, but I had test flu for 7 fucking days on that dose. And then it went away and I was fine. Iron and ferritin are in range. Yeah, lower your dose, brother. Lower your dose. Lower your dose. If I were you, I would switch to prop or cream, and I'd go at moderate doses, and that shit's going to clear up almost right away. Right away. It is obvious that what you're doing right now is not working. Right? This is not working. This is not sustainable to feel fatigued and shit like this and exhausted. If you don't have any other biomarkers, you can look at thyroid hormones, but I doubt it's doing something to that. You could have ongoing test flu. It's either a carrier oil problem or it's a test conversion to a immunogenic metabolite called etiocalanolone that could be causing this. Megatron, when adding DHT on a good TRT protocol to boost libido, should I up the HCG dose to counteract the suppression caused by the DHT for fertility? Maybe, but it's a slippery slope there because you could fuck up sexual function by increasing estrogen too much. It all depends. But, you got the right idea. DHT can suppress sexual function if it's crushing estrogen and if there isn't a good infusion of testicular support. It can totally do that. DHT is fucking wonderful. We need it for erections. We need it for masculinity. We need it for hair growth. We need it for assertiveness. We need it for libido. But too much in the presence of crushed estrogen is a problem. So, you're right to try to think about it like this. Regarding fertility, you probably want to do sperm motility test if you really care about that. And then kind of just see, where that goes. Chance of saying the goal is to switch from clomiphene to HCG with the same results. Oh, so okay. 250 IUs, 2x a week. Honestly, I don't know because HCG is not going to block, estrogen receptor. So it's possible that the HCG dose was fine, but you need to maybe lower the test dose so that you don't over aromatize. Do I think carrier oil changes the half-life of the test? Testosterone in castor versus MCT. I think maybe marginally, but I don't think it's that significant. I think it's true that it is marginal, but I don't think it's like, some huge fucking difference. Pie Cubs. I feel I have to take a 0.5 milligram of anastrozole every other day on 1 click of cream in the AM and 1 in the PM. My current levels are 1,200 total tests and 25 estrogen. Feeling wonderful at those levels. So do you take this 0.5 milligrams of anastrozole with that? And estrogen's at 25? Because if you do, then you're metabolizing the anastrozole pretty differently than most folks. And this actually works out. If you don't have any joint pain, stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with it. Stick with that. It means, that because that total test being at 1,200, that's pretty high for 2 clicks a day of 200 milligram per milliliter. I wouldn't be quite that high. Most folks that I've dealt with wouldn't be quite that high in total testosterone. But at the same time, if you're taking that much anastrozole every other fucking day and your E2's at 25, then it isn't crushing it like it tends to do for a lot of folks, most people, frankly. So if you're good and libido and erections are good, do nothing, brother. Here's a guy who requires an AI in 75 milligrams a week. This happens to people. That to 75 a week would take me to about 10 picograms per milliliter of estradiol, and that would be with 125 IU HCG a day. So I wouldn't need an AI, but how lean are you? Is there a body fat percentage problem? A lot of booze, a lot of alcohol, a lot of weed, frankly, can do this. Or genetically, do you over aromatize, which should be a whole other problem to look at. Mr. Dan Riley, 892, googlemail.com for real. Okay. You are going to be banned, sir. Just give me a second to ban this Gerardo guy. Why are you talking about that, man? How come, brother? How come? How come, man? You are now banned, dude. Don't say shit like that. Don't say shit like that, brother. All right. Let me get to the next question. Just gonna make sure the chat overlay for comments is still good. Should be. Megatron, I heard adding DHT to the protocol can also help fertility. Well, potentially a little bit of it might help. Yeah. Not a lot of it. This guy again, I gotta ban this dude. I've gotta ban the dude. Hold on, boys. Gotta ban somebody. Danielson. You are banned, retard. Don't act like a fucking idiot, man. Stop acting like a fucking idiot, dude. All right. Let's hopefully get back to the pop out. Hopefully back to questions. If you have any more weirdos to get out of here, I'd be glad to remove you, man. Be really glad to remove you. Okay. Is Masteron worth adding to TRT to help induce some extra anabolism, or to extra tests be better? Quite frankly, Masteron would be better if you have... No, okay. The answer to that is ANAVAR would be better. ANAVAR would be better because it's not going to mess with estrogen one way or the other. Probably not going to mess with sexual function at all. Adding more tests is going to increase, estradiol, and that's going to be, likely a problem for sexual function. So please keep that in mind. Quite honestly, it would be ANAVAR. Now, if you bring Masteron in and you can dial it in and it doesn't mess with your libido, and it would do that via blocking estrogen at the receptor, then you're fine. It's not super anabolic compared to ANAVAR Masteron, but it does sculpt your physique pretty significantly better than stuff like Proviron. Proviron will give you like a pretty cool edge there. You look rounder, you look saucy, and you're vascular. There's less subcutaneous water in your tissue. But Masteron is certainly better in that arena and is more anabolic. Just got to monitor your libido, man. Dream Chaser, do you know if daily injections of testosterone cypionate solves insomnia cases on TRT? Please, need help solving insomnia on 125 milligrams split twice a week. So it's 125 total dose, but you're doing the 70 or what is it, 62.5 or something, 2 times weekly. Blood is perfect, just bad insomnia. What do you mean blood is perfect? Where's estradiol? I think usually on cypionate, if you're doing infrequent pinning and you have side effects, daily injections will alleviate a lot of those side effects. But better yet, going on stuff like cream or prop fast acting shit is going to be better. Chris, Ryan about sourceless in order from AG. All right, first of all, no fucking sources on the channel. You say that shit again, you're getting banned. In fact, I'm going to have to remove that comment. Don't be a fucking idiot. Secondly, they are an international company, and they recently got hit up with some tariff problem. So stuff is on back order, and they have just started shipping from about a month ago. That was not something, I could control or anyone could control. That's just something that happened, but they're getting on the back orders. Never again, put a source anywhere in here that is going to get you banned on the channel. YouTube fucking frowns upon that shit. Use your goddamn fucking brain, man. Jesus Christ. Love you guys, but some of you just don't fucking think, and that is not a good idea. Not a good idea. Just a little bit of thinking. A little bit of thinking. Just a little bit. Chris, why do I feel better when I go back to 1 shot of test cypionate? See, this is another thing. Some people, the difference between folks, the variation between folks' responses has to do with your metabolism of the drug for sure. And the drug itself, cypionate it's just hard to dial in sometimes. And so like this happens all the time. I've done a lot of content on this, particularly in not the older days, but maybe like a year or so ago. And I was getting a lot of people who were just fixing their protocols by just going to once a week. And everything was fine. They didn't over aromatize. They got a good peak and everything. They got a trough. It's the way they metabolize it. They don't metabolize it super quickly. It's just, a good little peak. They kind of hover in the zone pretty much all the time. And then they trough down and they're still in the zone, peak again, and ends up working out. So, when this guy goes back to 1 shot a test at 120 a week, everything feels better. Yeah. Also though, you're getting a good peak of everything in this case. So in getting that, your body loves it. This is why I love cream so much, because, I don't have to, in between injections and stuff, like wait and then potentially trough too much and have these weird fluctuations or anything. Like I just get the peak in the morning. It lasts all fucking day. It's 3 p.m. here. I wake up at 7 a.m. every day. I feel like an animal. I will feel fucking awesome until 9 o'clock tonight, at which point I'm going to go to bed. I'll start getting tired later because that's just what happens. But, it is what it is. Yeah, these guys had a tariff problem. They did, but they're getting the back orders right now. Oli Hughes Fit. Thanks, man. How long would Masteron take to not show in a blood test from last injection? I don't know that question, the answer to that question. That is a hard one. Rock on Dreamer. Why is your girlfriend a single mom in her 40s? She is not a single mom in her 40s. You couldn't date a chick without kids. I was with a girl without kids prior to my current girlfriend, who I love a lot. Weird question though, man. Weird question, dude. Weird fucking question, dude. I don't know why you think my girlfriend is a single mom in her 40s. She's not. She's not. I can tell you one thing though. What you just said, you wouldn't fucking say if you were standing in front of me. Guarantee you that shit. Guarantee you that shit, brother. So why say it on the web? Why? Why? From fucking South Jersey, dude. We don't roll like that. Craig David Fox, hello. The sleep issue. What's the trick to sleeping on prop? Nothing. You have to find the dose that makes sense for you, man. There's 2 things. Number one, going on TRT in the beginning, there's always an adjustment period where insomnia tends to happen. Where you just it's just your body's not used to shooting up in androgens over a 3-day period if it's cypionate, peaking to a level that your body's probably never ever experienced in since you were a teenager, and maybe not even that. And then dealing with the extra estradiol that comes along with that. If you're not using HCG in the beginning, the reduction of DHEA and pregnenolone, the reduction of GABA signaling in the brain, this shit can cause this kind of stuff, Generally, over time, people get used to that, and their body kind of regulates. The GABAergic signaling in the brain regulates, and then they're fine. But the second answer to this is your dose is probably just too high, and stuff is elevated a little too much. Yeah. Thirdly, though, like with all of this stuff, like just some of the side effects related to overstimulation and insomnia, they just get better over time. Yeah. I mean, in the very beginning of TRT for me, doing 200 milligrams a week, I had not insomnia, but it was like pretty fucking hard to go to sleep in the first hour. I would just be laying there for an hour. Like I want to fall asleep, but I just can't. And then, years passed and whatever, I ran a cycle of 560 a week and slept amazing. 9:30, 10 o'clock came around. I was like, all right, I'm going to bed, turn on Alex Jones or whatever I was watching at the time, fucking fall asleep. And that's it. So it just over time, you get used to the stuff, but also your dose might be entirely too high. So just keep an eye on that, brother. Braden, so you don't do daily pins. You do less frequent injections and later raise SHBG and extra remediation. As in, as E2 was controlled, would SHBG still increase moving from daily to 2x? I don't do daily pins. No, I put cream on. I put cream on every morning. And then I do every 5 days of 40 milligrams cypionate. I'm doing 100 milligram per milliliter cream, 5 pumps a day, 330 IU HCG a day. Then every 5 days I put 40 milligrams cypionate in. It's fucking the craziest hybrid protocol, but it works really well, dude. Really well. When you did short cycles of DHT, how long would you use it before cycling off? I don't quite remember. I just remember experimenting when I was on higher dose of cypionate with DHT to try to counterbalance the estrogen signaling and supercharge like erection quality, and it worked with the right dose, but it was a lot and caused hair loss. It caused shedding to be fucking evident. Otherwise, I don't use it like that. Like I'm dialed in on TRT as it is. So I don't need the DHT, but if I were to use it, I would be very modest with it, probably about 1 milligram at a time, transcrotally, the oil, the DHT gel, the 20% stuff, but I diluted it so it's a less percentage in 1 milligram per drop. And that would enhance erectile rigidity for like 3 days, but I don't need it. I run 5 of Cialis every day. Just been doing that for years, and protocols dialed in. I got loads of DHT via the cream, so I'm pretty good. Hey bro, thanks for the super chat, by the way. Jordan, what's up, dude? As I wait on HCG to reship, with current delays, how much should I increase my T-prop dose from 30 milligrams every day? I used about 350 every other day. It's a hard one, man. I mean, I honestly don't think... If you were dialed in with the prop and the HCG, I wouldn't change anything right now, unless it causes you side effects to have like less estradiol or, less test in this case. Then it's a hard one. 7 to 10 milligrams a day is what I would suggest, but you just run the risk of creating more aromatization, which is then going to take not a whole lot of time, but some time to lower once you get back on the other dose. Otherwise, if you feel fine as it is here, I would wait for your HCG to come. And, make sure, I don't know if you have sourceless or not, but make sure you get it so that you can get the right, vendor, and just get HCG before you're close to running out. When I have 4 vials left of 5,000 IU per vial, I order more. That's my time to order more so that I can make sure, even if there's a shipping delay, that I get it in time. Because I'm not paying 250 fucking bucks for a 10,000 IU vial from the clinic. It doesn't make sense. Dream Chaser, we're 250 milligrams of uridine every 5 days. 2 days off for a total of 3 months. Be a good protocol for some brain prime. Potentially. But I would add the B vitamins. I'd add choline to it. Acetylcholine is what I would add. I would add, the DHA, or just a good krill oil complex. And I would add some vitamin E and magnesium at low doses too, to get, what you're trying to induce is neurogenesis, which is what the literature suggests that does and seems to, in my experience with nootropics. My SHBG right now is 13. Megatron, how much should I expect estrogen to increase if using 125 IU HCG daily and bump it up to 150 IU? Negligible amounts. Yeah. HCG is not quite as estrogenic as people think. Only when you get into higher doses of test does it become more problematic. Yeah, I've run all kinds of experiments and I've seen all kinds of shit in coaching. I don't even think I would have been able to see in real life because it's just certain shit I wouldn't personally do in real life. But I've seen people go down to 75 to 100 milligrams a week of an injectable, and then they can take 500 IU of HCG every day, and they fucking don't over aromatize, and their dick works great, and their libido is crazy, and the boys are all big and all this kind of shit. So, I mean, it all depends on relative test dose, man. That test dose is too high, you know, the HCG becomes problematic. HCG, people need to understand that some of these compounds aren't static insofar as what they do. Like HCG is good or bad. It's all in context. You know, if the test dose is just too high and you're over aromatizing, HCG is not going to be your friend. Like you have like dick problems or libido problems, you think, let me just add some HCG, not going to be your friend. But, you know, if you're under aromatizing or you're right around the sweet spot, potentially a little lower, more HCG is going to be your friend. Guys got to remember that stuff. Really. HCG is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful compound. But if it's in the context of a shitty protocol, it's going to fuck you up via too much estrogen. And, you know, it can make sexual function worse. Pie Cubs wants to reiterate half a milligram of anastrol every other day. Yeah, 0.5. Yeah, that's right. 0.5, dude. That's a lot. It means, again, that you're responding to the drug in a favorable way, and it's not just crushing the estrogen. That's really good. Jordan Gina, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I think this time I ran close to the end, and then the first vendor got delayed, so I put on another. Hopefully both show up. Yeah, eventually what's going to happen is both will show up. Both will show up. Yeah, that happened to me one time with Proviron. Like I had a delay in shipping because it was like international, and then I ordered more, and then they both showed up at once. So I still have a lot of that to this day because of that. Good amount of test P left, and I know it's a little scarce. Stock up early, brother. Yeah, on anything, if you're using UGLs, just stock up if you can. If you have the money, if you can afford it, just stock up. It's the better bet, man. Better bet to just stock up. Rock on Dreamer, LOL, you became a stepdad to kids you don't even own. I don't know, brother. I really don't know, man. And unless you were the ex-husband of the woman that I'm seeing, I really don't know where the fuck you're getting that shit, dude. I really don't know. It's super fucking weird, dude. Super weird. I can tell probably in real life, though, you're just around high caliber men. You probably are the type to stand in the fucking corner. Because when we look at you in your goddamn eyes, you know what's what. Weird shit, dude. Weird shit. Tommy Top Rock. Great fucking name. I've been contemplating $200 for a 10,000 IU bottle from the clinic versus $30 for a 5,000 IU bottle. This is HCG. I'm a bit worried of bacterial contamination or endotoxin. I think you're fine. You got to find the right, you got to find a good quality source and you'll be good. Yeah. I mean, I think to date, I've never had anybody report to me that a UGL source of HCG was like contaminated or something. Yeah. I think you're good to go, brother. Yeah. But yeah, $200 for 10,000 IU at the clinics, like my clinic. I won't mention them just because I don't want to make them look bad. But at my clinic, it's $260 for 10,000 IUs. Whereas otherwise UGL, like I don't want to give like super specifics here, but UGL, I mean, it's like fucking substantially less than that for 10 vials of 5K IU. Megatron is on a low dose with test sip failsafe working rate. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I had a guy come to me with like just loads of problem on TRT and just wanted to get this situation resolved as quick as possible, libido interactions, and we put him on the sip failsafe protocol, and within 4 weeks, everything was back to normal. Everything was good. Sometimes that's just it. You have to go on a low enough dose where you don't aromatize past your zone, have the HCG at the dose that makes sense for you, and then right off into the sunset. If you need extra anabolism on top of that, you just fucking use ANAVAR intermittently. I mean, that's the only way. That's the only way to go about that. It's the only way to go about that. Best channel on YouTube. Thanks, brother. Thanks, man. I got to do more collabs. I reached out to Dave Lee on his channel today to just kind of get the conversation going to get us both back on a podcast together because I think you guys really like that. So I would love to do that because we see things a little differently regarding estradiol, but we're so aligned regarding DHT and cream and shit like that. So I think I would love to have Dave back on the channel. I'd also love to talk to Vigorous Steve and see what the hell he's doing. I once tried to do a podcast with the guy from balance hormones or something to this effect. And we did it, and then they put it up, and then they took it down. I think it's because we discussed somebody on the channel that like is another semi-prominent YouTuber regarding TRT, and they didn't like it. And I just think that is ridiculous, man. But that's okay. That's totally okay. If people want to be weird, they can be weird. Petey, thanks for the super chat, dude. I'm glad you watched the channel, man. I hope you're getting information, from it. I hope you're getting good information that is applicable, like that fixes problems or gets you closer to where you need to go. I mean, that's the point. I've had so many emails and comments of people like, hey, man. I mean, some in the most serious situations, like after having taken an SSRI and destroyed their sexual function, getting on Masteron and Test and a little bit of Cialis and fucking like cured their PSSD and shit. I love that shit. I love that. So I hope you're getting some good, useful information, brother. Jordan G Unit in 2025. It's not that hard for an individual UGL with good research to have their own clean process. Quite frankly, yes. I mean, you just, that's what I did. A lot of vetting with sourceless stuff is because you just have to find people who take what they're doing very seriously. And there are a lot of those. Rock on Dreamer talking shit again, dude. Again. We're going to TRT just become a stepdad to kids that ain't even his. I don't know why you're saying that. Would you put your first and last name in the chat? Would you? Hey, Rock on Dreamer. You want to put your first and last name in the chat? Because I'm here just transparently me. But you got an anonymous handle and you're talking shit on the internet. You want to put your first and last name in the chat? What about the city and state you live in? Bet you won't fucking do that. But you'll talk shit though. Mike, hey Ryan, how do you rate Sustanon compared to Prop? Would pinning Sustanon daily convert to DHT as much as Prop? I don't know the answer to that, but it's just not the same, pharmacokinetic profile at all, right? So Sustanon's a blend of many different esters, and Prop is just one ester that's rapidly in and rapidly out of the system. So rating it, I don't have a lot of clients that come from using Sustanon. I mean, I get clients that have been on every ester, like that have had problems, and that includes Sustanon. But I don't really remember folks, coming on board from Sustanon having a great time because they're coming to me with problems, libido, erection issues, climax issues, sensation issues usually. So, I think that if Sustanon was some easy, quick fix to libido and erection issues on TRT, or if it was just like super fucking amazing. I mean, I get the concept of it. Then I think a lot more people would be on it. But, frankly, not a lot of people are on Sustanon, man. Dream Chaser, is there a happy medium level with dealing with the neurosteroids of DHA and pregnenolone when dosing these? Do you find some people do better with levels in the middle of the range rather than the high end of the range? I think with pregnenolone, it can be on the low end of the range and you usually don't have problems. I think I see people, taking bad advice and taking loads of pregnenolone and it just gives them ED, probably because of the progesterone blocking DHT, via inhibiting 5AR. But DHEA can cause problems at doses higher than 50 milligrams a day, sometimes higher than 30 milligrams a day. You don't want to dose that shit too high. I've also had some recommendations from folks that have come on board with me that they were, recommended to be dosing 100 milligrams of DHEA per day. And now their estrogen's too high and they feel overstimulated and snappy with their wives every day and they have all fucking other problems. So I don't really see the need to dose that. 20 milligrams a day DHEA is usually enough for folks on TRT. Yeah. If you have HCG in the protocol, and you're producing enough of the intratesticular DHEA and pregnenolone has never in my experience been a useful addition to anybody's protocol. Yep. I never add it to anyone's protocol. I've not seen it be anything but disruptive of erectile function specifically. So something to think about, boys. Not saying it doesn't work for people, because there are people who take it and like, my libido's a little better, no disruption in erections, and I sleep a little better, but I just don't see that very often. Tito, can you talk about 30 milligrams test prop, mass prop, and 20 milligrams Trin Ace as a protocol? Like if you're doing 30, 30, and 20, I mean, I think you'd be pretty anabolic. I mean, that you don't really need large doses of trenbolone to have a pretty significant effect. And Vigorous Steve has been over this on his channel. 30 a test prop and 30 a masteron's probably going to crush your libido via blocking of estrogen a little bit too much via that prop dose. I mean, the prop dose that gets estrogen in range usually for people is like on the low end 10 if you're a super responder, to the high end 25 milligrams a day. So, I mean, if you're on 30, you're only a little bit above that. And then you're bringing in Masteron, you're probably going to block estrogen too much. I really wouldn't think that's a good idea. Vajratalan. If we're on Cypionate 200 milligrams a week, can prop use tactically when we feel a need to boost? Well, only if on that Cypionate, the E2 falls in range, which it's unlikely to do at 200 milligrams a week. Yeah. You guys have to think, I would just encourage people to think about, adding like fast acting stuff to your protocol. Only making sense under the condition that estrogen's already in range or a little bit lower than your sweet spot. Then adding, the fast acting thing to the protocol just gets it right into the sweet spot and you stay there. And that's where it makes sense, I think, a lot of folks have the idea that, hey, I'm on Cypionate or whatever, it isn't particularly working out. Can I put some cream on to boost things? Or, can I just inject some phenylpropionate? I heard that one recently to kind of boost stuff. And yes, definitely. And it should if the E2 is already close to being in range, and if it doesn't take you substantially over. If it does, then that's just going to be adding, negative fuel like fucking kerosene to a fire that you're trying to put out in the opposite direction that you really need to throw ice on instead. That's what I would say, brother. That's what I would say, brother. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. I got some stuff I've got to tend to. Great fucking questions. Sorry I didn't get to do actual content today, but it's just the way the day went. Right now, my life is a movie, and I'll just keep it at that. The way the fucking day went, I was not able to do content, edit content. It was a really weird day. Really fucking weird day, but all good things. All good things. So should be able to be back to content either tomorrow or Thursday. Another live stream this Saturday. Probably 11 a.m. Eastern time frame, maybe even noon, so look out for that. Again, boys, coaching is 50% off right now. That is sticking around for now. That is the biggest discount that I've ever run on coaching. We just are fixing libido and erection issues for guys on TRT. Yeah, no matter the ester, switching to different esters. Dialing in the sexual function is something that doesn't just automatically come with TRT. Getting on TRT. It is a science, and it is sometimes you've got to employ a strategy to do that because the cookie cutter thing you're on is not working, or even the intelligently put together protocol that you've executed is not working. This is what I do professionally for a very long time. We'll dial you in. LiveCortex.com, book me in under a minute. Use coach discount. It saves thousands of dollars, takes the total down thousands of bucks on each of the coaching programs. There's also new ones, a Telegram consult and a singular call with me, which you can book in under a minute. LiveCortex.com. Boys, I love you guys. Thanks for the questions. Kick ass. Rock on. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. 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 See you.